Our third speaker is Brad Page. Brad and partner Jane are restoring a 200 hectare heritage agreement near Yankalilla. Their aim is to reduce the impacts of foxes, feral cats, rabbits, kangaroos, deer, pine trees, gorse and blackberries to improve the prospects of endangered goannas, bandicoots and native plants. Please welcome Brad.
Thank you. Thank you. Fancy having to follow Kath. I feel like Kath should have been last. Thanks everybody. So this was a talk about weed control trial and error. Anyone who knows me knows there's plenty of error, and I'm really disappointed to see Lisa here tonight because Lisa's tried to train me and get me more away from the errors and more into correct practices. So I think anyone who sees a heritage agreement block for sale, or anyone who's got friends who come down to their heritage agreement block, they start off seeing it like this. There's great trees, there's maybe a bit of ocean in the background, it looks fantastic. And this is our place down near Yankalilla. And look, it's really rose-coloured glasses. You know, most of this stuff, these things are a poison chalice that, while rewarding, no doubt, they are going to steal your life. You think that you're there to save these cute and cuddlies. On our place, there's Rosenberg's goannas. There's not that many of them left, probably in the hills. They see a few of them every year. There's a few down at our place, and they do seem to breed down that way. There's cute and cuddly little animals that are left down there. These swamp rats, they're common as muck, but yeah, you think that's what life's all about. And you have some beautiful dams, and just like Peter showed us earlier, you've got these beautiful settings, but in the back, you've got this ridiculously ugly weed, which most people here who know gorse would see that's what dominates the background there. It is by far Australia's worst agricultural weed. It dominates pastures that are degraded and not managed properly. It gets into native scrub and it's a nightmare to kill. Peter, unfortunately, lives in the seed bank for 70 years, so you better use your I know you're well trained as a medical practitioner, and so you better use that to extend your lifespan because you've got work to do. The biocontrols aren't that effective. They will knock it around a little bit, but you cannot get rid of it. So the way we now look at our property is a series of dots on the map of where the worst weeds are. Things have changed a little bit since when Peter started mapping his place. This is a map of gorse on our place. Allows us to go out 1 year and kill it in one manner and go back to it 2 years later and kill all its babies. I'm pleased to say I've got a photo of Lisa here. And so this is what gorse looks like on the right-hand side, on the other side of the fence. And this is what gorse looks like after a heavy machine's gone through and turned it into mulch. We had to do this for acres and acres of gorse on our place and acres of blackberry as well. Parts of our place were grazed up until about 20 years ago, and so when they stopped being managed, there was about a 20-year debt of weed control, and we bought it and we're paying for that now. So the gorse was around about 4 metres. We've got pristine gorse habitat here. Down at Yankalilla, there used to be a gorse nursery. When people first moved out here a couple of hundred years ago, they established this nursery so they could make it look like home. They could have these beautiful hedge plants, and that's what we've got now. There is gorse at Peter's place and anywhere where it rains well, particularly in the great swamps, which are a threatened ecosystem even of their own. Gorse loves them. So all of that now is back down to ground zero, and there's Jane with the heavy machinery that if any of you have homogenous stands of gorse on your place or thereabouts, I would encourage you to work with your landscape board to look into getting funding to contract one of these things because they make it possible. They can inspire you into what is an otherwise overwhelming job. And through the Landscape Board revitalising Commonwealth Government, we've been able to put these things through most of the stands of gorse on our place. They're incredible. So they basically mulch it down to finger-sized pieces of wood. That's that block of scrub where Lisa was standing some years prior. It's now been planted out with the threatened Mount Compass oak bush or something like that. We spray that every couple of years to keep the 70 years of seed bank down, but importantly, seed production down that way has stopped. Gorse seed production just doesn't happen in a lot of these areas. We still have other weeds coming through, but now that we spray it every couple of years, that's well and truly sorted it out. Similarly, for a patch of blackberry, it was taller than me in this area, and Lisa said, look, let's have a go at this. In about 2017, Lisa had a look at this patch of blackberry. You can see in the background there's plenty of gorse there as well, and plenty of blackberry. This was about 6-7 foot high blackberry, and Lisa sort of did a trial on our place of running that mulcher through. So this is now 12 months after. You can see the blackberries coming up very well. One of the things Lisa didn't appreciate me doing was I boom sprayed all of this area and just did that for about 2 or 3 years until the blackberry stopped dominating. I just didn't have the time to deal with it in any other way. Lisa would have rather that I got out there and cut and swabbed every one of them. But the reality was we just wouldn't have got there, and the blackberry would have come back. Incredibly now, after just a few years, these fluoreo swamps do rehabilitate, and this has come back with continual spot spraying of blackberry and gorse coming through. It's now come back to what is an incredibly diverse little area that's recovering better than we could have ever dreamt of. It's much better than the gorse areas because it's in an area where there's just not as much pasture weed coming through, and blackberry's a really easy one to kill. The pine trees were an incredible one. Our neighbours, Forestry SA, they've put a lot of money into our place into killing their vagrant pine trees, but we've also done more than our share of killing what would be thousands of pine trees that were on our place, and some of them were big daddies that were there. These ones here, just to give you an idea, we started off with a cheap chainsaw ring barking these things. Ring barking pine trees is really unsatisfying. It's hard work. It's a little bit dangerous. It takes forever, and it doesn't kill them all. That looks like it should kill them, but it just doesn't. And so after many, many days of doing this, I actually read a paper, and there's some great work being done by the Tassie Land Conservancy on how to kill them really easily. And just with a bit of glyphosate, drilling that in every 30 centimetres around the trunk, gives a really appealing autumn look to pine trees within a month or two. And it is so easy, you can do hundreds of them in a day, and there's now pretty much no pine trees. Any on our place are reserved to being under a few centimetres now. But gorse does keep coming back. So these are little gorse babies. They keep coming back every year. As we speak, they'll be growing down there again in the beautiful rain that we've had over the last few weeks. And it is a perpetual problem. So 70 years of this stuff, if it's not overgrown by natives and outcompeted by natives, if it's just left in a constantly grazed area and constantly disturbed, it'll keep getting lifted up from the soil, and it'll keep sprouting, and it'll keep wanting to become 4 metre high stands of gorse. So my recommendation is buy the best sprayer you can afford and spray every couple of years. The best sprayer with a very powerful pump is an essential for this work. It's money well spent. What else would we have here? So killing blackberry in native scrub, that was a really hard one, and we had to cut a track that was about 1 kilometre into this one just to be able to get the spray unit in there to kill it. This stand of blackberry is about 150 metres along a creek line, but it's now all well and truly dead. One of the things I learnt from Lisa, or with Lisa, and through much trial and error, was when to spray. And so it's worth reading, before you go out with the spray gun, it's worth reading that it doesn't work that well if it's a super hot day. So it's better to go to the beach on those days, not spray, and wait till it's a much more mild temperature, because the plants will be growing and they'll love the chemical a little bit more. And the other one was down the bottom, there's some gorse flowers, which apparently are a great salad ingredient as well. But that was not what it was there for. It was to remind me to say it's also not that good to spray some of these plants while they're flowering, because they're not growing that well, and it's not effective to kill them when they're doing that. The other one is the good people at the Department of Primary Industries publish weed books, which are basically how to kill the things, and they're available on the website. There's apps, there's the whole kit, and so there's recommended, actually required methods of how you kill these weeds, and those books are all publicly available, so I encourage you to look them up. Add penetrant to all of your sprays. That is an incredibly big bonus for us to be able to to almost get 100% kill on gorse and blackberry and anything else that's growing down there. And dye has also been the red dye that we put into the weed spray, so you can see where you are and you don't actually sort of forget and think, right, I haven't sprayed you, have I? And then I'll give it a second dose just to make sure. The last one, and a tricky one for all of us, is deer and kangaroos. So down at our place, we would shoot in excess of 100 kangaroos every year, just through a destruction permit to try and reduce their impact. Just their grazing on the re-veg that we're trying to do. That's it. So the constant pressure from these things is something that needs to be managed. We try and shoot every deer that's down there. We shoot around all of our neighbours' properties to try and wipe the deer out, but their numbers are certainly increasing in that area. And lastly, thanks for all the funding. So look, without this, the NRM board, some of the staff, which are now the landscape board, and of course the revitalising program, Commonwealth Government, Forestry have put tons of money into our place, and it's made a dramatic difference. So thank you.